So I'm switching journals this year, journal method. I've got this red dot. I'm going to do a page a day in this red dot, LEUCHTTURM red dot. And I don't do bulleting or anything. I'm just going to write on the lines, and it's really tiny. You can see that's super small. So what I wanted was some small pens. And I had a couple Pilot pens already. But I really wanted to explore, the most comfort. I really want this day, a page a day journal thing to work for me. So I wanted the most comfortable writing experience I could get, rather than just make something I had work. So I ended up expanding this little test experiment way bigger than I thought. So late last year, I got a couple extra fine pens. I had a couple extra fine pens already. Fine and medium are my go-to. Usually fine is where I'm happiest, but it just didn't fit in those lines. So I ended up with 6 pens that I wanted to test and see which one would be best for which ones. It doesn't have to be exclusive. Which ones would be best for writing in that LEUCHTTURM. So anyway, bought a bunch of pens, did a bunch of testing. I just want to give you a quick overview of what I did. So I had, like I said, I'm using this LEUCHTTURM red dot journal, but I also wanted to just kind of get a feel for how the pens worked in other environments as well. So I tested these against this APICA CD11. This is a 7mm, 70 gram paper. I've got this planting tree, this MUJI planting tree paper. This stuff is so cheap, and it's really nice. You get a little ghosting, but the pages are super thin and light. This is $5 for 5 notebooks. That's pretty good. I had this Clairefontaine notebook. Pretty standard. The lines are way too big for fine and ultra fine, extra fine pens. The writing just got lost in here. It was uncomfortable to write in that huge space for me. Then I got these Denik notebooks, these cheap little, you get these at Target, 3 for $15. So a variety of papers. I even used some old notebook paper I had sitting in my desk for the last 10 years. It's easily 10, 15 years old, so it's kind of yellowed and a little brittle. So that was fun to try all that. Initially, I thought I would go with a Pilot 912 posting. For how I understood this pen, it's a really fine line. It's perfect for tiny spaces. And this is all true. It's got that really crazy little hook nib. It's pretty neat. Yeah. And I'm glad I tested beyond this, because I found some things out about this and my use of the posting nib, which I'll tell you in a second. So that was pen number 1. This is what I started with. And I learned that this is not the pen I want to use. This is a great pen. Don't misunderstand. For the right place, this is a fantastic pen. But I'm glad I expanded, because I also added in, I was looking for ultra, very fine things. I've got this Pilot 91 in an extra fine. So the 912 has the Pilot size 10 nib. And the 91, custom 91, has the Pilot size 5 nib, so you can see the difference in sizes. So this is the posting, this is the extra fine. You can see it's just a little bit tinier. And interestingly enough, what am I doing? Gosh, look at your stupid display. I'm just so mesmerized by the pens, I forget to look at the display to make sure I'm centered. Sorry about that. It is amateur hour. So I also have this extra fine. This is a 912 in extra fine. So 912 in extra fine, 91 in extra fine. You can see this is the size 10 nib, this is the size 5 nib. You can see the difference. And as you would expect, there's just this line is just a little bit bigger. This line's a little bit bigger on the size 10 than it is on the size 5. Still fine for my uses. So that wasn't a deal breaker, but it was really, really interesting to try these two nibs side by side. And then throw in that posting nib too. Getting really interesting. Okay. Look at that little hook on that posting nib. It's so interesting. So I did that, and then I felt like I was, kind of cornering myself in the pilot world. So I have a 1911 Platinum 1911 in soft fine that I really enjoy, but it just wasn't small enough. So or I felt it needed to be smaller. So I got this ultra extra fine. You don't see a lot of ultra extra fines out there. So this is a Platinum ultra extra fine, and hoo boy, it's ultra extra fine. They're not lying when they say that to you. So that was pretty fun to try that. And then since I was in the Platinum line, there's another. So this is a 14 karat nib. That's a 14 karat ultra extra fine nib. So it has a particular amount of give and a particular that scrunchy feel that that Platinum pens have. And so I wanted to compare it to another ultra extra fine in the Platinum family, and that's on this President. Now they don't make these anymore. You can still get them, but they discontinued the President line some time ago. So I just wanted to see. So this 1911, the Century, is a 14 karat nib, and this President is an 18 karat nib. And there's just enough of a difference. I mean, you can tell the difference. You can really tell the difference. Line size is about the same, as you would expect. They look pretty much the same. Line size is about the same, but they definitely a different experience for me. So that was a playing field. That was what I decided to try. So I've got 2 Platinums, ultra extra fine. Here, let me do this. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. 2 Platinums, ultra extra fine. And it's just bothering me to leave these caps off for so long because I know these are going to dry out. And 3 Pilots, 2 extra fine, and 1 posting. So that's the playing field. That's what I started with. And I'll just give you a quick synopsis of, I did a lot of writing with each one. I did journal pages, at least 3 journal pages with each one. Not contiguous, I switched off day by day. I did all kinds of writing in my scratch journals, except that I usually shred my scratch journals. Only this time I only shredded some of them. I did this kind of comparative writing where I took all 4 pens. This is before I added in the President, where I would take a piece of prose and then I would just write, copy it out in all 4 pens, one right after the other, just so I could get a feel for how it felt and, just my immediate impression when switching from one to the other. You immediately get a feel for what attributes you liked or which ones you missed when you switch pens. So that I found that very useful. Like I said, wrote a ton. And here is the quick synopsis of what I found out. This is for me. This is 100% for me. And think about how I write. I'm kind of lazy in my hand positioning. I don't hold the pen exactly the same way as I go across the page. I might turn it a bit. My angle of approach, might be a little shifty. Depending on where I am on the page and where my elbows are sliding off the desk, if I don't have enough space to write sometimes, my angle might get steeper, might get lower. So I got a lot going on here. Some of these are more forgiving of that writing style or lack of style, as it were. Some of these are more forgiving, some are not. So none of these are bad pens. These are all super high quality, excellent pens. You know that. I am not saying that one, I'm going to throw this one away. All of these are going to stay in my life. I'm going to use them in this little journal, but some of them are going to get more use than others. So here's what I found out. So this little 3776 has that kind of scrunchy feel. It doesn't have that super scrunchy feel like a Sailor does, but it's pretty good. It definitely has feedback. I find though that the nib, when I was going to different types of paper, now granted this is mostly for my LEUCHTTURM journal, so it doesn't really matter, but just cause I did this, On thinner papers, this had a tendency to dig in and scratch the paper more. Maybe it was my hand positioning. Maybe who knows why. But this tended to dig into pages a little bit more, and just because it was a little less forgiving of my hand positioning, it ended up being kind of stressful to write with a really long writing session. So this was actually for my writing in my little red dot journal. This was my least favorite. I still like to pick it up and I'll write a couple paragraphs. Maybe I'll casually scratch out a few paragraphs in a scrap journal, and it still feels good. I still enjoy it, but for really long writing sessions, it felt like it was a little too much work to keep it running. Okay, so and that's just me. That's just me. So this one, that was my impression of this 3776 ultra extra fine 14 karat. Now the President, immediately better experience for me. The line was just a little bit bigger, even though the nibs don't look that much bigger. I felt like the line for the President was a little bigger. They're both ultra extra fine. The 18 karat did not. It felt like it was a little bit more in control. It was much more forgiving of my my hand positioning. It didn't feel like I really had to control it as I was writing. You know, I could relax my grip a little bit more, which I need to do anyway. So my assessment of this could all be me. You know, I still got a lot to learn. It was easier to hold than this one, more relaxed than the Century in my hand. So this was a more enjoyable experience. Still had a small line, still had a tiny bit of that scrunch to it. This was a better experience for me for full page writing or more. Still wasn't as super friendly with my lazy writing, but it was more forgiving than this one. Then let's look at the posting nib. And this one, super sharp. If you've ever used a posting nib, it's very sharp. And the whole point of the posting nib was to be used, not necessarily to have a tiny line, but to be flexible in the type of paper you're writing on. So if you had, crap paper, it would still put down a really nice line, and it's very forgiving for the type of paper you're using. And I found that to be true. And all the stuff that I used on all the different pages that I showed you, and even the ancient notebook paper that I had, it worked great. Worked well, very consistent. Not forgiving at all about my lazy hand positioning. I had to really focus to keep the angle just right and the approach just right, to get a good consistent line. So this ended up being super cool, not very relaxing to use. I'll use it, but it's happier when it's on bad paper. So if I've got maybe I'm doing a gift card or something I want to write on a small piece of paper, that you get the idea. So that was my experience for that. Then let's look at this 91 extra fine, this pilot, and this was immediately an improved experience for me. The pilots, and I use Irishizuku inks in my pilots generally, so that pairs really well. It's just a super glassy, glidey feeling. This one had a little, it's a smaller nib, so it had a little bit of a bite here and there, but it was really forgiving of my horrible hand positioning. I could start at the top of the page, stretched out a bit, and then as I got to the bottom, I'd be kind of crunched up a little bit. That's sort of my way. This was great, super glassy, very good experience. More forgiving on rough paper, easy to write a whole page. I didn't feel as tired. I didn't feel like I was fighting to keep, to like stressing about holding the pen just right. This was a much better experience for me. However, it's kind of boring. It's just this extra fine pen that writes really nicely. I didn't really feel like like the platinums have that kind of scrunchy little, just a tiny bit of bouncy springiness as you write. And this is, this Pilot nib is very rigid. It's very strict. It's very controlled. So it was a good experience, but it wasn't terribly interesting. And then finally, can you tell where my favorite is? Finally, this 912 in extra fine, and this is the one for me, for my particular journal writing. This is going to be my go-to. It controls really well. The nib glides even more smoothly than the size 5 extra fine. This is the size 10. It's easy to hold for an extended period of time. Is just slightly bigger than that 912 or the 91, just slightly bigger. So it's a little bit easier to hold, a little bit more relaxed. I don't feel like I'm having to position my hand to control it more, which I think was the problem with the 3776. It fit really well in the red dot spaces. It was super easy to write in those spaces. Very forgiving of my positioning. This Pilot 912 in extra fine was the pen for me for this test. That doesn't mean I didn't like all these other pens. I will continue to use them. I mean, I spent a lot of money to get them, so I'm definitely going to use them. I didn't walk away from this thinking I want to sell this piece of crap. No, these are all excellent pens. For the particular use case I chose, this pen is the one that I find most satisfying. I said I tried 6 pens for a little while. For a bit, I slipped in this Falcon, this Alabo, this Pilot Namiki Alabo. This is a soft extra fine. I don't love. I mean, it's cool as heck. Look at that thing. It's very cool. It's got that beak look and feel to it. I just don't like the softness for long writing periods. For paragraph or two, it's great, but for a page or 2 or 3, I get that feeling where I'm fighting the pen because it's got a little bit too much flex in it for the type of writing that I do. Again, so I kind of threw that in just because it was handy and I was thinking about it when I did this test. So there we go. That was the end of my my long journey, my very expensive journey, but I'm super glad I took it. The goal for me is now I can take this journal, I can actually do something with it, I can have a good consistent writing experience with it, and I can use it every day, and I can go back a year from now and kind of take the journal stuff. You get that. But I've got the right equipment now for this particular journal use, so we'll see what happens. It was a ton of fun. It was kind of stressful actually, because I had to really make a decision, and not only to share, but also for myself. I needed to make a decision, and I'm really glad I did this. And thank you for tuning in and checking it out.